Good evening to you all, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us in tonight's edition of Viewpoint on DBS Television. Special greetings goes to those watching us in Bonaberry, in the Douala 4 municipality. Special regards to you all, or a shout out to you all watching us right there. Tonight we are going to be looking at cervical cancer, handling the disease in our society, what remains the greatest challenge, and to talk about this, we are once more honored to have the founder of Salvation Medi Rescue Mission for Africa and the coordinator with us here in the studio. And for about 26 minutes, they are going to be talking deeply about cervical cancer. Dr. Simon Petulano, founder of SIMA. Good evening to you, and it's always a pleasure having you on Viewpoint.
Good evening, Vanessa. It's my pleasure to be here.
Hopefully our viewers will be edified on what cervical cancer is all about.
Yeah, cervical cancer, as you know, is cancer of the cervix, just like cancer of the breast, cancer of the... so now what will be important is to know where the cervix is. The cervix is the lower portion of the womb, the uterus. So the uterus is like an inverted calabash, and that small little protrusion of an inverted calabash, which we all know could represent the cervix. So when there is cancer in that area, it's known as cancer of the cervix. Okay.
Making Innocent, good evening to you and equally welcome.
Good evening, Vanessa. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
You are the coordinator of the non-governmental organization, and over the years it has been spearheading the campaign against cervical cancer.
Yes, of course. It has been a pleasure doing that. The goal is to sensitize and mobilize more people to be aware of this silent killer disease.
Before we get to know what is the greatest challenge in handling cervical cancer, it is important for us to know what it is all about. Dr. Elia just gave a description or an imagery of what it could be. But then, what is it all about when we talk of cervical cancer?
Well, cervical cancer is a disease like so many other cancers. It's cancer that affects just like I said, affects the cervix. And the cervix is supposed to be the lower portion of the womb, or the entrance of the womb, where the baby enters and the baby comes out through that area. And it's a very common cancer because the virus that causes it is very common to human papilloma virus.
It's very common. Yeah. So is there any way the women could identify that they are precancerous, or some symptoms to prove that they're already affected?
Well, generally, this cancer is a silent killer. The reason why they call it silent killer is because the cancer of the cervix may be there for a long time before symptoms begin to show. And when symptoms start showing, it's not a very good sign. No one will ever be happy to wait until symptoms of cancer of the cervix start showing. Symptoms like bleeding during, after, or before menses, or bleeding during sexual intercourse, lower abdominal pain, profuse foul-smelling vaginal discharge, all those things, back pain, and so on. Those are telltale signs.
All right. So if maybe a woman gets to feel or see some of these signs, she should go for a screening or go for proper checkup. Innocent. Now, looking at what cervical cancer is all about, and looking at the symptoms, the efforts to control the spread of this disease, how far has it been in Cameroon?
Well, I think that the government has done its best to make sure that they sensitize the population, but I think they will need to do some more, and coupled with what Salvation Medi Rescue Mission for Africa has been doing, we've been doing our best to make sure that we sensitize people around us in and out of the country and in other regions of Cameroon. That has to do with a lot of talking, using all forms of communication to make them, to let them know and be aware of the dangers of this killer disease.
All right, so what do we, the women, what do we need to do to avoid the disease? Because it's not all about going for the screening already. Are there preconditions in which we must do on a daily to avoid it?
Yes, that has to do with making sure that our hygiene is good, and also what women can do to prevent that is, first of all, sensitize their own children at home. They can get a vaccine. That is, children about between 9 to 12 years can get a vaccine, and then they too can avoid having multiple partners, because multiple partners can also increase the risk of getting this disease, like the human papilloma virus. Really? It's a virus that spreads it, that causes the cervical cancer. And then another point too is smoking. Yes, women have to avoid smoking, because smoking weakens the immune system, and once your immune system is weakened, it becomes exposed to some of these diseases. It harbors them, and it becomes exposed and easily controlled by these diseases. When I talk about immune system, it means our natural soldiers of our body. That is our white blood cells. So when we consume, when we smoke, it weakens them. It makes them less stronger to fight off this virus.
Doctor, adding to what Innocent just said, what can the women do to reduce the risk?
I think in addition to what he has said, regular screening against cancer of the cervix is perhaps the most important, and then way to prevent the disease, because every sexually active woman is a sure person that can develop that disease because of the human papilloma virus, which is the virus that causes it. And secondly, they could also, like he said, sensitization and awareness, because this disease is more or less a disease of ignorance, especially in Africa. When you compare the population of a country like the United States, which is over 300 million people, and the population of Africa, and you see how many people that have cancer of the cervix in the US and how many have here, you see that a lot of people are dying not because the disease is that terrible and aggressive, but because of ignorance. They screen late, in fact, most people don't even know about screening.
So, doctor, with your experience in the field,
and as you said, vaccination too. Now,
you've gathered much experience. You've worked with Cameroonians on how to go about all these. So far, what has been the greatest challenge?
Well, our greatest challenge, first of all, I want to appreciate the fact that people are getting very, very much aware of the cancer of the cervix, which is perhaps the commonest cause of cancer death in women in Cameroon, and maybe more than 20 other African countries. We have noticed that there's so much awareness, especially in the urban areas. And then more deaths and more cancer patients are coming from the rural areas, and that goes a long way to confirm the fact that it's a disease of ignorance, because in the rural areas, they hardly do screening. They don't have access to Medicare, which could identify this early enough. So the challenge here is that a lot of people don't know about the disease and how this disease is transmitted. It is very, very serious challenge. And then secondly, poverty is a very great challenge. Sometimes you diagnose somebody with pre-invasive cancer, and you tell the person the danger of this, and that person goes and you never see the person again with just because he has no token to give, to bring as his own contribution for you to make him or her get well. Yeah, because if we compare just the screening in a country, in Western world, is expensive. Here we're doing it free. We are trying our best to access much more women by saying this thing is free, and sometimes they don't even show up. And when they show up, you diagnose them, they don't come for treatment.
All right.
Yes.
Innocent, let me direct this question to you as the coordinator of SIMA. Now, Dr. just mentioned of the fact that some women, even after being screened, they are scared of coming back even for the treatment. Is it not because the myth around the disease itself is still being known to the people? They are not yet convinced that such thing actually exists.
Yes,
because some people will say it's mystical, it's not real.
Yes, just to add to what Doctor mentioned, many people are becoming aware. But then another control check that he mentioned was about helping them to make checks regularly. Why is that so? Because the human papilloma virus, once it attacks the cervix, it doesn't develop into cervical cancer in one day. It can take a long period of time, and that is why constant checks is necessary, so that this can be discovered and then appropriate action taken. Now, concerning the women, most often they know, and then they are afraid that, all right, if they are diagnosed with something, they may be just a thought
that comes
having that out of just a thought of it that you have cervical cancer may traumatize them. But then they fail to understand that it is a process. It's a step-by-step process. Once it is discovered at an early age, or maybe you have pre-invasive cancer, which is not cancer, actions can be taken, and that is what we've done. When we find a pre-invasive cancer, we take appropriate action to make sure that is solved. And then now, education too is also important. That's why our job is not only to screen, but to educate the people. When we meet them in the field, we let them understand what is this, how can it be prevented, how can you control it, what should you do in order to reduce the risks or to prevent the negative action of this virus that causes cervical cancer.
So from statistics gotten from the field, or from, equally from statistics gotten from the field, what is the situation in Cameroon presently?
Yes, the situation is not very good, but I think that from what we have as statistics, for every 10 women that we screen, we have at least one with pre-invasive cancer, and we've often done our best to make sure that we handle it, and that's why we encourage more women to do voluntary screening, especially passing through us to get that.
All right. You said the situation is not very good, but that should not scare the women from going for free screening. Dr. Simon, currently Salvation Army Rescue Mission for Africa is carrying on free campaigns.
Right.
What is the campaign all about? Where is it, the locations, and what is required of women coming for it?
Well, just like you said, it's free. They are not paying for it, and the reason is just in line with what the coordinator just said, is to reduce, to be part of that team that will stop the eradicate cervical cancer according to WHO agenda, say by the year 2030. And then the fact that this is not a disease that should kill anybody. Honestly, it is painful when you see somebody die of a disease that could be prevented with little or nothing, just because of ignorance. So we just go out there, we educate them, we announce, we do all kinds of things, and then right now we're getting, like just a few days ago, close to 500 people in about 2 or 3 days. So They were excited. There were times that you go out there, you have a big team ready to work, and you screen just 50 women, reluctant women. But this time around, there was so much pressure on us to screen them. So I felt like something is happening. And then in our environment there, around the airport area, we have screened thousands of women and men against some deadly diseases like the cancer of the cervix and breast too. So I believe that we're becoming very aware, and if that spreads to all parts of the country, we could meet our goal of almost eliminating cancer of the cervix in the next 10 years in this country.
Innocent, so where is it being done? Do you meet the women on the ground, at their homes, door-to-door movement, or they will have to gather somewhere where the team will be meeting them?
Yes, we are not static in our style of reaching to people. We are dynamic. So we go door to door. We go door to door. We knock on doors. We talk to the people. We educate them. We also, after educating them, we sometimes prefer not to be on our premises. We can station ourselves in the quarter. After talking, we invite them to come to our stand, and then the screening is done there. Because some people will say, "Oh, it is far from me," this and that. So we judge a lot as far as proximity is concerned. So we are taking the health. We're taking health provision to the population, and that's what we do. And then sometimes too, we invite people to come to our premises. Like now, we've launched a regional campaign inviting all women to come on free screening, beginning the 25th of October to the 25th of November. So we're inviting all of them to come for free screening.
All right. Where is the station found?
Well, we are situated opposite Vision Comfort on the Douala-Yaoundé Highway between Shell and Antrebi. So we are opposite Vision Comfort and just beside Santa Rita Civil de Bobongo.
Therefore, every woman in the littoral region is invited between that period from the 25th of October to November to go for free screening. And of course, if anything is being detected, obviously they are there to sensitize, that there for follow-ups and probably treatment. I'm talking about treatment. Innocent McCann, is it affordable for an average Cameroonian before doctor will be getting into the treatment proper?
I would say
is it affordable for an average Cameroonian?
I would say I would say yes and no, because it depends on who we are talking. But in the general sense, it's not affordable. It's not really affordable because unless you are supported by someone else or by an organization, it's really difficult to afford the treatment.
It's really difficult to afford the treatment. Doctor, what are the different processes in which medics use to treat cervical cancer?
Okay, we have a primary prevention of cervical cancer where we could just screen them, and those that are found to have pre-invasive, you see the cervix, it shows that, oh, this cervix, if we leave it for another 1, 2, 3, 5 years, it could develop into full-blown cancer of the cervix. So in a situation like that, we could use what they call thermocoagulation, which we use very often in our center, Salvation Med. Then we could use that, or use cryotherapy in another form. It's such a difficult procedure. Within 10-20 minutes, you have sorted out the woman, and she may never come. After a few months, you call her to check again, and most often than not, it takes care of the cancer, the pre-invasive cancer. That's the beginning of cancer of the cervix. Yes, there are 3 stages: stage 1, 2, and 3 of pre-invasive. So it depends on which stage. But it's all treated in one week.
In 1 week.
Yes. Then in 1 week. Yes, which takes about less than an hour in the screening room. Yeah, in the screening room, and the person goes about his business. So that is important for women to know. The reason what has given us the guts to go out there and screen every woman, is the fact that we know that we have the solution. And the solution is not a big one. This disease is such a terrible and dangerous and big, but the solution, if you find it at an early age, early stage, is so easy and it's affordable.
Doctor,
the word is not affordable is when you have full-blown cancer. That's invasive cancer, where you have to go use chemotherapy, radiotherapy, surgery, all those, and that's big money for an average Cameroonian. That is not affordable. But if you don't get there, it is almost affordable for every Cameroonian, because 50,000 francs to spend to treat yourself of pre-invasive cancer, you know, in the neighborhood of 50,000 francs, is not too much.
So from what I gathered is that it is better for you to go for your screening as often as you can in order to avoid it, because when you're already suffering from invasive cancer, like Dr. puts it, that's why it becomes so difficult for an average Cameroonian,
because you have to spend real money. Yes, to get it off.
All right, Doctor, a message now to all those watching us at this particular moment. Well, what will you tell them? Because some are still not convinced about going for the free screening, or they are still having this ideology that it's some form of a sickness that it happens just of a sudden. What will you tell them at this particular moment?
Yeah, the message is that we shouldn't allow anybody or anyone to die, any woman to die of cancer of the cervix. The second message here too is that cancer of the cervix is not the disease of that woman alone. It is not the concern of the medical world alone. It is everyone's concern, because when a woman has cancer of the cervix, it affects everybody. It affects the husband. You can't get access to the most important part of that woman, to you. You alone own that. So you should know that as a man, you should encourage a woman to go for screening. As a woman, you should encourage your fellow woman for screening. As a boy or girl, you should know that your sister, your mother, could, if she has cancer of the cervix, it will affect you in one way or the other. The financial burden, the psychological effect, all that is the reason why we should all go out, each and everyone in our different communities, churches, and different organizations, and tell people about it, because the disease is killing people in Africa because we don't know about it. Every 2 seconds, a woman dies of cancer of the cervix. That is not supposed to be. That is not what happens in other Western countries. So we can do it within our lifetime. We
can do it. A tricky question: is it hereditary, Innocent?
No, cervical cancer is not hereditary, as I earlier mentioned. Cervical cancer is caused by the human papilloma virus. It is sexually transmitted from the man to the woman, and once that virus is there, that is when it starts manifesting.
And the vaccination, a girl child between what age range?
Yes, a vaccination between the age of 9 and 14 is nice, at least before the child gets
engaged in sexual functions.
Yes.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully all the information that you needed concerning cervical cancer has been passed out, but for more doubt, maybe you could get to medics to get more information on that. And do not forget that screening is one of the overall solutions that you could do to avoid being to avoid contaminating or to avoid having cervical cancer. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. Tomorrow again is a promising one. We'll be back with more health topics to discuss on Viewpoint. Stay tuned and happy viewing.